All right, so you wanted to get the lowdown on the whole Robert Saleh thing with the Jets.
And we are here to deliver.
Okay.
We're going to break it down, figure out why, what happened, how it happened, and what in the world is next for Coach Saleh.
Yeah.
And to help us unpack all of this, we have got our resident NFL expert ready to go.
Always love a good coaching carousel story, and this one's got some juice to it.
It does. I mean, 5 games in, right before a divisional matchup, and boom, Saleh's out.
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't it be more of like a warning a little bit more?
You would think so, right? I mean, usually mid-season firings are reserved for like really disastrous starts. Like we're talking 0-5, maybe 1-6 if you're being generous.
Right.
The Jets were 2-3, not great, but also not exactly like light the world on fire, get this guy out of here territory.
Yeah, it felt very sudden. And to do it right before a Monday Night Football game, I mean, that's just put all your dirty laundry out for everyone to see.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the timing, right? It's not just that it was early in the season, but to do it right before a nationally televised game, that adds a whole other layer to it, right? What kind of message does that send, not just to your fans, but to potential coaching candidates, to free agents? It just kind of screams instability. Now, look, I'm not saying there isn't a time and a place for a good shakeup. Sometimes a team needs that jolt. I keep thinking back to Tony Dungy with the Buccaneers back in 99, 2-3. Everybody thought they were toast. They stuck with him, and guess what? NFC Championship game.
So are you saying that maybe the Jets just hit the panic button a little early on this one?
It's certainly possible, right? I mean, firing a coach that early is a huge gamble, but here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The rumor is that this wasn't actually as out of left field as it seems. Word on the street is that Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, he might have already been thinking about moving on from Saleh after last season.
Wow, really? Yeah. So this whole thing has been like brewing behind the scenes. Yeah, it's all speculation at this point. But knowing Johnson's history, let's just say that patience isn't exactly his strongest virtue.
So Saleh finds himself out of a job right now, but this is a guy who practically built the 49ers defense. I mean, you're telling me no one's going to scoop him up?
Oh, Saleh is far from done in this league, head coach right now. Or maybe not. But that defensive mind, that's gold. Jerry Gold.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like a tale as old as time in the NFL. Coach doesn't work out as the big dog slides into a coordinator role, rebuilds their rep, and then boom, back in the running for a head coaching job somewhere else.
Interesting. So you're saying we could see Saleh back in the game maybe in a couple of years?
Don't rule it out. But for now, we got to talk coordinator gigs. Which teams are desperate for a defensive miracle? Who's on the hot seat? That's where you're going to find Saleh's most likely landing spots.
Give me some names. Which teams should we be watching?
All right, well, based on everything I'm hearing, keep your eye on the Dallas Cowboys, the New Orleans Saints, and now this one's a long shot, but maybe even a return to his old stomping grounds, San Francisco 49ers.
Wait, Saleh back to the 49ers. Now that is juicy. But let's back up for a second. The Cowboys, they are always in win-now mode. How does Saleh fit into that puzzle?
The Cowboys are all about that Super Bowl window right now, and their offense. Let's just say it's not really the issue, but their defense, inconsistent at best. Saleh is known for building defenses that are aggressive, opportunistic, downright scary. Imagine him working with Micah Parsons. Defensive coordinators would be having nightmares.
I mean, that's the thing, right? A defensive nightmare is an offensive coordinator's worst nightmare. The Cowboys would eat that up. But the Saints, their defense has been pretty solid, but their offense might be seeing some changes in the offseason.
See, the Saints are interesting because if they decide to move on from Dennis Allen, they're probably going to be looking for an offensive guru. And if that happens, Saleh could be the perfect guy to keep that defensive identity going. He inherits a talented defense, could potentially turn them into one of the most feared units in the league. It's like, hey, our offense might be finding its feet, but don't even think about scoring on us.
I love it. But you teased us with the 49ers. What's the deal? Could Saleh really go back to San Francisco?
It's a long shot for sure. I mean, the 49ers are doing their thing right now, and their defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryans, he's no slouch. But this is the NFL. Things change fast. If their defense hits a rough patch or they want to bring in like a veteran presence, someone who knows their system inside and out, well, Saleh's name is going to be right at the top of the list.
Okay, you got me. A 49ers reunion would be must-see TV. Like the prodigal son returns, but this time with even more tricks up his sleeve.
And it just goes to show you how much respect Saleh has around the league. He might not have gotten those wins with the Jets, but his defensive genius, that never went away. In fact, you could say this whole Jets thing actually made him a more attractive candidate.
Okay, so we've talked about the why, where Saleh could land next, but for our listeners out there, What's the headline here? What's the big takeaway from this whole Saleh saga?
I think what's really interesting about Saleh's story is that it shows you that a coach's value, it's not always about the win-loss column.
Okay.
I mean, look at what he did with that Jets defense. He took a unit that was, frankly, a little rough around the edges and turned them into a real force to be reckoned with. That says a lot about his coaching ability, his system, his ability to connect with players.
Right. That's like they say, sometimes you got to fail in order to really succeed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Saleh's firing also highlights another really important point. Timing and ownership decisions are huge. Even if Saleh goes on to have amazing success somewhere else, it doesn't mean the Jets were wrong to let him go. It just means that maybe their visions for the team's timeline weren't quite matching up.
Yeah, and that's kind of crazy when you think about it. The pressure on these coaches, I mean, every game is like a job interview.
Oh, absolutely. The NFL is a ruthless business.
Yeah.
And Saleh's story is a perfect example of that. Even with his defensive expertise, one team's trash is another team's treasure.
It really makes you think, if you were Robert Saleh fresh off this whole Jets roller coaster ride, what would be your next move? Which team would you pick and why? Something to ponder, right? That's going to do it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us as always. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into a topic you're burning to know more about.